You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset.
Yeah.
Quick reset.
Last night was Ramos Jizz.
Freudian slip. Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, it's doing for somebody. Everybody mute. Goddamn it, you're killing me.
My SEAL Team 6 went to SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
I thought you'd get better.
Well,
I don't know what's
also-
worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is a new week. It is a new topic. The intro never changes. The faces never change. It's the same four gentlemen it has always been. Unfortunately, we're down by one tonight. Big Mac, our bottom, will not be here. It's unfortunate, but he had some other things that he had to take care of this week, so he will not be in today. But that's okay. The three horsemen will hold it down. I'm here with the Grinch, and I'm here with the Haas. I feel confident that we will power through. Gentlemen, how's everybody doing tonight?
We will. I am whelmed.
You are whelmed.
I am
not
whelmed.
under, not over.
Not under, not over.
Just whelmed.
I am merely whelmed.
It's nice, it's a different day than we normally record, but it's nice that we're able to get together. I'm sorry Matt can't be here, but it is what it is. I was kind of jonesing for, just hanging out and doing this as we do each week. And it's been a minute because I was traveling and Haas was traveling and Grinch was without power and Mac is traveling. So schedules just didn't align. So here we are recording, and I'm ready to go and I'm excited. So let's jump into it. So let's go ahead and do our drinks. Now, Haas, you didn't respond, so I don't know if you're doing the drink of the evening. Okay, the head shake says no. So I'm going to let you go first, since I think Grinch and I did the same drink, and then I will let you go first and tell us what you're drinking tonight, brother. Cool, because I can't hear you, so it must be delicious. Technical difficulties.
There I was trying to put on, headset so you could be here. I could hear better.
Oh, there you go. Now you sound wonderful.
I somehow muted myself in the process.
There you go.
Yeah, I ran around, scurried around to try and find all the ingredients, but was missing one. So I just decided to pour a very healthy Haas portion of Angel's Envy because
That's
why
what
not?
you do. Is
Why not? I mean,
you gotta wait. Do you have a big ice cube or no?
No, I just put like one. Yeah, sort of, kind of one big ice cube. Yeah, I'm sorry. Here. Hold on.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go.
Ironically, the Angel's Envy I brought home from Georgia was our final stand bottle. Thinking,
Really?
If we get the power back, then we'll hold off on it because nothing was open, right? Without us driving out of the county. And finally,
Right.
we're just like, fuck it.
We're doing it.
Yep.
No sense in being sober during that shit.
I mean, there's worse beverages to see you through a power outage than Angel's Envy. I mean,
And
living
I know we're
a
going
high
to talk
life
about
over
it,
there, buddy.
but we literally would just sit in the evenings and listen to like funny videos and podcasts and whatnot until we just got bored enough to go to sleep.
By candlelight in the fireplace.
Yeah, exactly.
How fucking mantical. Well, look, I'm glad that you are over the hump and you were able to join us tonight. Haas, Angel's Envy, it's your go-to, and I'm glad.
Yes.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Haas is actually stateside for the next month, so he is actually in the same time zone, which is nice. And so you were able to procure some things maybe that you were not able to find over there, and
That's one of
potentially
them. Yep.
taking them back.
Yep. I'm due to go get 3 or 4 more bottles to try and get back over there with.
There you go.
For now, I'm just enjoying a belly full of it.
There you go. Angel's Envy on the rocks.
Yep.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
All right. So
Good shit.
Grinch, since you and I are having, I think, the same drink.
We are.
Okay. I'll let you talk about it since this was actually a list your wife put together and put out for us to have. I don't know how she came upon this list, but
Well, the thinking was thematic drinks starting with the weekend of Thanksgiving that got us through Christmas. Now we got off on schedule, so this would have been the Thanksgiving drink, which is the cranberry fizz.
got it.
So at face value, it's 2 ounces of bourbon, 2 ounces of cranberry juice, 4 ounces of
Ginger beer.
ginger beer. And
I did 3 and 3 and then
yeah,
5.
I was catching on to the hand signals. Yeah. But I think it's pretty good.
I like it. Oh, you did a smaller glass than I did. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like, but you guys know I like cranberry. I've drank it quite a few times on the show in some form or another. And how do you go wrong with ginger beer and bourbon? I mean, and so where did you find this?
I don't know, actually.
Okay, she did not divulge
she was
her
home
secret.
that day. Yeah, and I, and we know we have a drink called the Grinch coming up, which excites me. So, so we're behind on getting it for Thanksgiving, but it is based, it's designed to be our Thanksgiving drink based on the cranberries.
Now, obviously, for a teaser for our next show, since Haas and Mac will not be here for the next episode that we record, if you would like to do the Grinch, I have all the stuff for that, and we can do it there. If you want to go ahead and do it, it's up to you, or we can wait. I don't care one way or the other.
Oh, we could drive on. Yeah, we could drive on.
The thoughts.
Yes.
This is housekeeping. We're going to be together for 3-4 days. I presume we're going to record at least 1, if not 2 podcasts, right? While we're together.
I mean, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I mean, so we got the Grinch cocktail in the chute, followed by the wind margarita, followed by the Santa Clausmopolitan.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
And since we're slightly off schedule because of our scheduling snafus as of late, if it pushes everything, that's okay too.
Yeah,
so we can make that work.
We definitely do the winter margarita when Mac's around, but I'm down.
Okay.
I want to try out. They all sound amazing.
All right, well, we'll do whatever Sunday, and then
we'll plow ahead after that.
Ones. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So the cranberry fizz, I think is what it's called. And as you said, it's just ginger beer, cranberry, and bourbon. Super simple, super easy, tastes really good. I like it. And it keeps your kidneys clean. Can't go wrong with that. Right. So I think for me, this was a win. I would do this again.
Yeah,
easy.
Me too.
Yeah. So obviously, as always, gentlemen, cheers. Mac, we miss you.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Roast.
All right. And let's go to work. So this week we are talking about something near and dear to my heart that occurs every 4 years, and that would be the World Cup. And in case you haven't been paying attention, it is being held in Qatar, a Middle Eastern country.
Yes.
Who one of us has actually been through multiple times. I have not. Haas is not. So there you go. So Doha, right? You've actually been through Doha a number of times in your travels because you're a worldly man. And so that is where it's being held. And so what I want to talk about is obviously I'd like to kind of talk about the state of the choice of choosing Qatar back in 2010, because if you're not aware, there was quite a bit of controversy that surrounded the selection of Qatar as the 2022 host nation. And then I'd also like to talk about some of the other things surrounding it, this kind of debacle that unfolded right before the World Cup started. There was an issue with what's the name of it's Ab InBev, the parent company of Budweiser, I think is what their name. I'd like to talk about the banning of beer sales within all of the stadiums in Qatar 2 days before the World Cup kicked off on November 20th. And then obviously we are more than welcome to talk about kind of the state of the World Cup right now, the teams that are in, the teams that are not in, kind of where things are. Obviously, as all native to the United States, and the United States not being in it for 8 years and finally getting back kind of where they were, where they ended up, how that fell out. So we can talk about anything around the World Cup, but this, I love the World Cup. Every 4 years I follow it. I pay attention. As you guys know, I run a contest, much like the NCAA kind of Final Four bracket. I run this. I've been doing it since 2006 with my family. Now Haas is involved. Mac's involved. Haas, your family's involved. Grinch, I'm sorry you didn't make it this year. But so yeah, I do a lot of stuff.
Well, he can only handle losing at one sporting contest at a time every year. He can't fit in another one.
My temperament doesn't allow.
But if he had lost, he'd have 4 years to recover.
Yeah,
so it's not, you know what I'm saying? So
it's not enough. It's not enough.
Wow. Okay. But yes. So I mean, I love the World Cup. I love soccer. So that's or football, if that's your persuasion. Doesn't matter to me, but that's what we're going to talk about today.
Speaking of which, have you seen the commercial with Peyton Manning?
I have.
Okay.
I just bought a soccer team. Haha, you said soccer. I know I didn't.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Such a good commercial, man.
Obviously, a debate the world over. Is it football? Is it soccer?
Even though I am, since we're trending in that direction, a little segue, I am a little pissed, though, that Beckham's getting paid to be a an ambassador of the games for Qatar.
I love being out here. I love this food. I love this. I love this.
But at the end of the day, he owns a team here, an MLS team here in the United States, in Inter Miami.
He's got to be able to keep those lights on,
right? And you know what? If it bolsters the appreciation of soccer, football here in America, then it's a win, and I'm okay with it. But that is neither here nor there with our topic today. Sorry, so let's jump into it. So a little background: 2010, Qatar was selected as the host nation for the World Cup. And I think Mac pointed it out. Somebody pointed out there is FIFA. What's the name of the Netflix special? FIFA something Uncovered or some shit like that.
I believe that's right. Something like that. Yep.
And it covers the scandal that has been plaguing FIFA for decades. I mean, this is not a new thing. And it dates back to when the former president, João Havelange, the Brazilian, took over FIFA in the 70s, I believe, and kind of follows the arc with Sepp Blatter as his right-hand man through the following decades, as there was a lot of backroom dealings and under-table dealings with money changing hands to make sure that they were greasing the right palms to accomplish things. But when we get to 2010, turns out, when the selection of both Russia in 2018 as the host nation and Qatar in 2022 as the host nation were selected, there was a number of underhanded dealings that came to light and millions of dollars changing hands in what was considered one of the world's biggest sports scandals. I don't know about you, gentlemen. I actually watched the selection process in 2010. I was at my parents' and I was with my dad, who is also a follower of the sport. And we were surprised because there were a lot of other nations involved that post a bid. And if you haven't seen these, I mean, they are massive fucking binders that have to lay out infrastructure and how they're going to deal with it and all of the things related to it. And far and away, I think from all the things I've read, Qatar was the least impressive of them and was actually rated one of the worst bids to be placed for the selection. And it was a real head scratcher when it turns out they actually got the bid. And then people started diving into it. And then the Justice Department got involved. And there were a number of indictments that got laid out because of it. So that's obviously where we start. I mean, the shit show, just them getting selected, is surprising everybody.
And I mean, let's just stick with the facts, which was, at the time, they had no stadiums. They had no mass transit system. Certainly lacked in the number of hotels sufficient accommodations for the number of visitors, which I think I just saw they're under the mark they had hoped for. I think it's 725,000 plus visitors in the first 2 weeks.
765 in the first 17 days, when they were anticipating the minimum they were anticipating was 1.2 million.
And I mean, look, I mean, things are surmountable in terms of technology, but by the way, it's in the Middle East and it can get to be 128, during the summertime.
Which is why, for those that don't know, that's why they're having it this time of year instead of the summer.
Right.
Which, of course, I can tell you from all the Europeans I hang out with, they're all pissed off because they're used to hanging out in pubs and gardens, drinking beer, watching the matches, and they can't do that. And so, yeah. Anyway,
and no, that's okay. And I know when the bid came out, it was my understanding, or at least maybe I'm misremembering this, excuse me, that all of the stadiums were going to be enclosed because of the sweltering fucking heat that occurs in that region. And then I don't know if it was, even at the time, if it was, no, we're not going to hold it in the summer, it's going to be shifted. I don't remember if that was even on the table at the time or if that's something that came along after.
As I recall, they were always going to shift it because they didn't have a choice.
And that's probably the case. And the interesting part is most international soccer, sans what occurs here in the United States and the MLS, most international soccer club play occurs from August to May. Mm-hmm. And it is why, historically, the World Cup has always been played in the summer, because it's when club teams are not playing. And so now you've got that issue of club teams are in session, they are playing. They're vying for not only winning their own cups, but playing in the Champions League or whatever tournaments they may play as a club. And so now they have to put that on hold to kind of allow their players to go and play for their national teams.
Which is shitty for the players who didn't have a country that qualified, because now they've got to They've got to try and stay in shape and make sure they're staying on top of, their physical fitness in the game. And it's just a shit show from beginning to end, side to side, top down. It's just, what the fuck?
And a lot of leagues just suspended play for that month. They said there are going to be no club play. So yes, if you were in a national team that didn't qualify, you don't get to play for that month for your club team. You just have to sit and wait, because most most club leagues, German, English Premier, Italian, they just suspended play for that month.
Did they?
The MLS doesn't play right now. They actually, their season goes from March to October. So it was perfect for them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because they're ballers.
And they, and Qatar did win the bid over Japan, Australia, the United States, and South Korea, as I recall.
Which all would have been better. All of them. Every single one of those would have been better. Miles, just, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. The justification was it had never been, in the 21 previous World Cups, it had never been held in an Islamic country. I don't take issue with that.
No,
I don't take issue with that either.
As a standalone point to be made, it's obviously wildly popular in that region of the world,
which is fine.
It's just the other aspects, not the least of which is the accusations of human rights violations.
Yeah, human rights. The same things happened in Brazil and South Africa. There was no stadiums, there was no infrastructure. So all these immigrants come in and build the infrastructure and the stadiums, and they're basically, and it's a shame Mac's not here to rowdy around this, but they're basically slaves. They're indentured servants.
Indentured slavitude.
In Qatar, they take your passport.
But the system
you
is
can't
called
leave.
kafala.
Wow.
The kafala, or sponsorship system, gives private citizens and companies in Jordan, Lebanon, and most of Arab Gulf countries almost total control over migrant workers' employments and immigration status. The system arose from growing demand in Gulf economies for cheap labor, et cetera, et cetera. But it's largely Indonesians, Bangladeshis, maybe Pakistanis, Indians. It's those that have little, and it's a prospect for work so they can send money home. And like you said, they give up their passport. Most of them have to sign on to agreements that they can under no circumstances leave or depart or change jobs without their employer's permission. So it is, in fact, whatever you want to call it, it is no less than indentured servitude.
Right. Right. And I know that the one of the things they said about Qatar.
Well, did you see that interview with Adams from the U.S. where the interviewer was like, so what do you think about racism and the race wars in America? Oh, and by the way, you guys are mispronouncing the name of our country wrong. It's Qatar, not Qatar. And Adams handled it greatly, but my whole thing was like, well, I'm speaking English, so in English it's Qatar. If I'm speaking in Arabic, it would be Qatar.
Okay,
but I'm not speaking in Arabic, and neither are you.
Here's my fundamental fucking issue with that. If somebody were to come to the United States and mispronounce our country, we get fucking pissed off. We would, because we're fucking egocentric, and we're like, no, you're going to pronounce it. Come on, man. Everybody's speak the fucking language.
Sure.
I do have an issue. Their country's name is Qatar, and I can pronounce that in English. I don't have to be fucking Islamic or Muslim or Middle Eastern.
Well, what do you
fucking pronounce it right?
What do you call Munich when you go to Munich?
I call it Munich because I've never heard it spoken by the native language. And if I was there,
it's called München.
And I would say that if somebody corrected me, I'd be like, you're absolutely right, because I don't know that.
If you come to Vienna, what do you call in Vienna?
Wien.
Yes, exactly. Wien, not Vienna.
See? So there you go. But my point is, when we're talking about it in their country, should you not pronounce it correctly?
No, my point is if I'm speaking German, I will call it München and I will call it Wien. If I'm speaking in English, I call it Munich and I call it Vienna, because that's the appropriate way to say it in the appropriate language.
But if they have an issue with you saying that, if somebody corrects you, you have an obligation to be like, you know what, I'm in your country, because you would do that to them.
If somebody in Qatar has an issue with how I pronounce Qatar, then I'm going to turn around and go, that's the least of your fucking problems. You have human rights issues crawling out of your ass. Why don't we focus on those and not how I pronounce the name of your country?
Because I'll be honest, I didn't know that's what it was until Grinch said it to us one time. Because he's like, "Oh, I've been through there. It's actually pronounced Qatar," and I was like, "Okay." And it's not that difficult to say. You know,
it's not. But it's
we
more,
just think we're the center of the
difficult.
fucking universe as an American, and so we can say whatever the fuck we want. That's my problem.
Well, I'm not
What are
sure.
we talking about?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. We're talking about the World Cup. Let's go back.
Maybe
to
that's true. Maybe
But
it's
he
not.
opened that fucking can of worms. So
I'm just saying we're talking about. You said all things World Cup, and this
yes,
is it's World Cup
and that is
adjacent.
something
It's
that got said
appropriate.
to him. Yeah, absolutely. And in my opinion, it should be pronounced Qatar.
Well, and
So-
also kind of have a problem with
Not Quater.
why
No.
are you going to approach a player about politics?
To complain about it.
Like, I mean, what a dick move as a reporter. Like, this guy's not a politician. He's never, asked to be a politician. Why are you going to come at him like that? Like,
Right.
that's just such a dick move. And my first thought is because you want to get people off balance and not talking about, the
Every other
LGBTQ
issue.
plus issues, the alcohol issues, the female rights issues, the human rights issues of your slave labor to build your stadiums and your infrastructure. So
Right.
let's talk about how you pronounce, your fucking country's name, you fucking ass munchers.
It's Qatar, by the way. You're right. I'm not disputing that. That's a fucking ridiculous question to be asking. But when you're in the limelight, obviously they feel that nothing's off the table. So that's what they did. Yeah. So obviously getting the bid is kind of the first thing I wanted to look at, and the scandals surrounding that, because it was a head scratcher and a shock to a number of people when that happened. And that's why the investigation occurred, because of the issues surrounding their bid and how limiting it was. But of course, one of the things they said is, here's a country in the Middle East that has really deep pockets because of their oil. So they may not have the infrastructure, but they've got the money to build the infrastructure. And they had 12 years, because this was 2010. They got 12 years to do it. Now, do you think, you guys, this thing's in full swing. Do you think they've been successful in terms of the infrastructure and building the stadiums, getting them up and running? No?
The stadiums are gorgeous, right? Like they are. Even if they have weird names like Stadium 874,
974,
which does have meaning, right?
Yes,
what was it again?
There are 974 containers that make up the infrastructure of the stadium, shipping containers.
And then isn't it also the
I think
telephone,
it's the
telephone code,
the country code, or something like that.
Whatever. Yeah. Either way, even though you have weird names like
that's
Stadium
clever.
974, sure, still weird.
It is. They ran out of fucking stadium names. They were like, "Wait, what do we call this?"
Stadium. Let's throw a dart. Let's throw 3
Right.
darts at a dartboard. Oh, look, 974.
974. There we go.
Right.
Okay, how do we do that? Okay, we need shipping containers. 974 of them.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. But I will say the stadiums are gorgeous, and from what I can tell, the accommodations are gorgeous and nice. I understand that there's not been the turnout that they were anticipating. So I don't know. One of the other problems I have is not only did Qatar pay Beckham to be an ambassador, but they also went out and paid a bunch of different social media influencers to come and to tout how awesome it was there.
Right.
And I'm just like, it's like it makes me think of that guy in high school who used to go around being braggadocious about everything. I'm good at this and I'm great at that. And it's like, if you're great at stuff, you don't have to brag about it. Your work, your actions will speak for themselves. So it makes me feel as though I don't ever want to go to Qatar.
Well, for all you who are listening at home in high school, that was Oz. He was that guy.
That was me, Mister. Was I sober enough to be braggadocious?
Probably not. Or
Was
you
I
were over the top
was-
because you
was
weren't
I
sober.
conscious? Yeah, was I conscious enough to be braggadocious?
And of course, we don't have the stats yet in terms of total attendance, but I will tell you, in terms of attendance, statistically speaking, from 1970 forward. In 1970, it was held in Mexico, and in 2018, it was in Russia. And in 1970, total attendance was in the ballpark of about 1.7 million people went to Mexico to witness the matches that occurred. In 2018, Russia, over 3 million showed up. Now, from 70 to 18, from 1970 to 2018, actually the largest World Cup in terms of total attendance was in 94 when it was held here in the United States. Almost 3.6 million people attended.
Which, by the way, was over, what, 20 years ago?
1994. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Almost 30.
Yeah.
Almost
So,
30, 28.
so my point is this. I mean, it's a sad commentary that, almost 30 years ago, you have the most attended World Cup, and they can't look. You and I've talked about this off podcast. I believe there's a system that works better than what we have, which is instead of it being a host nation, make it a host region, make it
Right.
Europe, make it Asia, make it Africa, make it
A
South
host
America,
or a host
make it-
confederation.
right. Even that, sure, because what you have is a situation where countries like Brazil and parts of South Africa and clearly Qatar, have to go in and create stadiums and infrastructure when they don't have. And I don't know if you guys remember when they had it in Brazil, the Brazilian people were pissed because they need healthcare and they need infrastructure and they need all these things that as soon as people left, I mean, there's pictures. If you go look online, you can see pictures of the old South African and Brazilian stadiums that are just completely dilapidated. The jungles grow around them and the animals take over. And then, so what the fuck was the point? What was the goddamn purpose of that shit? That's money you could have given back to your people instead of, just getting fat off the hog from, milking fucking FIFA. I mean, it just aggravates
milking the teat of FIFA.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the argument will be made if you have in Brazil, it was 3.4 million people showed up. It is the infusion of money that 3.4 million people bring to your region in terms of hotel stay and food and souvenirs and and the beer that they buy. Oh, coincidentally, they won't be doing that in Qatar because they ban beer sales. But I think that's where they kind of weigh it, is they go, yes, you're going to have that infusion of money from the 3+ million coming into your country. And that's, I think, how they mentally offset in terms of those challenges. But I understand your point when you've got a country dealing with those issues. But it's much like the Olympics. You get a bid for the Olympics and you spend all that time building the Olympic Village and the stadiums and all. And then after the Olympics disappear, that fucking shit just goes all to hell. It doesn't get used for anything.
We've certainly seen those images of like facilities after the fact. But
yes.
I mean, the point is you want it because you want to showcase your culture and have a platform on the world stage. And here's the thing. I mean, with the Qatari royal family, Qatar is the wealthiest country in the world, if I'm not mistaken. It is, I think they're sitting on the third largest, oil and natural gas reserve or whatever in the world. And so, the average income of the country is $86,440 per person.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I mean,
and that's poor.
Their liquefied natural gas production is 77 million tons. I mean, so my understanding is I want to make sure, the Al Thani family, the royal family, is worth more than Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos combined because of how much money they have. So they had the money. I mean, it was just one of those, they just needed to get it, because I don't think they had any doubts. They were like, we'll just keep flinging money and build these damn stadiums. Who gives a shit what happens afterward? We want to be on the world stage because, I mean, some of their other Gulf region neighbors, like, that's literally all they have is oil and natural gas reserves. There's no tourism really, or in some cases, nothing else. And so they're kind of one-trick ponies, or they can be if they're not careful, to develop themselves into big tourist hubs where you want to go to see whatever, a big-ass hotel with a tennis court on the top or something. I don't know.
Right. And I think it was having that access to money and being able to infuse that money into places. One of the things that I came across was, according to Ken Bessinger, who is a New York Times reporter and actually wrote the book Red Card, How the U.S. Blew the Whistle on the World's Biggest Sports Scandal. He cites that, where is this here? The president of France at the time, Sarkozy, met with the Emir of Qatar, and apparently the Emir agreed to buy. The deal that was negotiated between the two was that Qatar was going to buy airliners from Airbus, which is a French company, and they were going to buy a French soccer team, as well as buying soccer league rights on French television to soccer. So they dumped a bunch of money into France. And what Sarkozy did was met with Michael Platini, who was, or at the time, was working for FIFA. He was a well-known soccer player, French soccer player. And at the time that this occurred was working for FIFA, and basically told Platini how he wanted him to vote when the vote for the host nation came down. And it was because Qatar used their influence in France to dump a bunch of money into that country. And so they went, oh, okay, well, we're going to vote for you to be the host nation. So it was things like that, where they were using their money and influence in other countries to get those countries to vote for them when it came time for the selection process. So
Hamid bin Khalifa Al Thani established, I think this is correct, he established the Qatar Investment Authority. By 2013, it had invested over $100 billion around the world, most prominently in the Shard, Barclays Bank, Heathrow Airport, Harrods, Paris Saint-Germain Football Club, Volkswagen, Siemens, and Royal Dutch Shell.
So he's hitting a lot of major corporations in a lot of influential countries. And
basically, and not just that, influential countries within the specific marketplace of world football.
Right. And basically bought his selection, bought votes to get their country selected.
I suppose it's fair to say we also have military installations there that they host.
And that has what to do with anything?
Regional influence, protection. Okay. When you host U.S. Military, citizens. It's a deterrent from countries like Iran.
So they allow us to be there to deter other countries.
Yes.
Got it. So there we are, 2010, Qatar gets the bid, and they spend 12 years building the infrastructure and the stadiums to put on the World Cup.
And so now the madness that is this World Cup.
So, which by the way, has been like
it's been a hell of a
It's been amazing. Like the tournament has been so enjoyable.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Come on.
We're not there yet.
But I want to talk about the fun stuff.
So we get to that point, and they do what they have to do. They spend 12 years putting together everything that's needed to kind of set the world alight.
Enough of the foreplay. Put it in.
And what happens?
Me up, Daddy.
48 hours before kickoff on November 20th, what happens? A ban on all beer sales within stadiums within the country.
None of you infidels will have your devil's liquor, your devil's drink.
And this was a massive shock.
Juice box.
Budweiser and the parent company Ab InBev, apparently they put out hundreds of $millions over the course of decades for the rights to sell beer within these countries when they're hosting the World Cup. And Qatar comes down at the last minute and says, no beer sales at any stadium. There will be wine, spirits, whatever, but it's going to be sold within the FIFA Fan Festival area outside the stadiums, and it's the only place it can be sold. Inside the stadiums, there'll be non-alcoholic beverages, and then in some of the very kind of posh, high-end boxes within the stadiums, they can have alcohol. But obviously, the run-of-the-mill average Joe Jane going to this doesn't have access to that area, so they don't get to drink within a stadium. And this was a huge issue, not only for Budweiser, because they had already shipped thousands and thousands of cases of beer to Qatar, which were now sitting in a warehouse and could not be sold, but it kind of, was spitting in the face of an agreement that had been laid out 12 years earlier, because in the bid that they proposed, part of that agreement was for beer sales that FIFA allows within the stadiums during a World Cup. And so this had already been agreed upon. And then 48 hours before kickoff, they say, nope, no beer. And so right out of the gate, it was like, okay, we're going to, Ab InBev, Budweiser is a huge company worldwide. We're going to slap them in the face. And it's like, what are you doing? Like there isn't enough shit after the last 12 years. There isn't enough shit with you guys getting the thing. And this is what you're going to do.
they have so much money, they clearly don't give a fuck what they do to anybody. And I'm sure Budweiser files a suit against them, a legal ramification, and I'm sure they fucking throw money at it because they don't give a fuck.
Right. And they'll just buy it off. They'll settle out of court.
Yep.
And what's interesting is Budweiser then tweeted out saying, whatever nation wins the World Cup, we're giving them all the beer because it's already there in country. We will pay to have it shipped home to your country. Whoever wins, they get all this beer.
And we know where it's not going to go.
Sadly.
That would have been funny. Like if Qatar made it, how fucked up would that be? If you're Budweiser, you're going, nope, you're not getting it. I'm not doing that. Fuck off. But yeah, it's a deal that Budweiser's had since, I think, 1986. I think 1986 was the first deal they made, and they've had that deal ever since 1986 at every World Cup. And it's just like, yeah, 1986 tournament. That was when it first started, where they negotiated it, and they're renewing the deal for the next World Cup in North America. Obviously, that won't be an issue here in North America in 2026, but obviously it is in Qatar. So, I mean, right out of the gate, before even the first kickoff on November 20th, you're already creating another issue. And
that and the LGBTQ plus
IARS, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff too. Also, a few days even before the booze ban. The whole no public displays of affection. I mean, there's just.
Well, this is dated a little bit. Sorry, Haas, go ahead.
What's the desire or joy to go party and celebrate your nation and something that only happens once every 4 years, or in the case of the U.S., once every 8 years, if you don't make a World Cup, to go if there's all these restrictions on them on having fun. I don't want to do that.
This is a little dated, 22 November, but it said Budweiser seeking $47 million from FIFA after last minute alcohol ban. And it said the Daily Mail reports that Anheuser-Busch has a $75 million deal with FIFA to be the official beer supplier this year's tournament. The deal for 2026 held in North America is worth $112 million.
Yeah, and they're I'm assuming making no money right now because their beer is sitting in a warehouse. And what's interesting, and I guess this is the weird part, is it's an Islamic nation, and Islamic heritage forbids consumption of alcohol. Like, they knew that 12 years ago when the bid got placed.
And I do just want to say this. Infantino can go fuck himself. He can go fuck himself.
For those who don't know him, he is the current president of FIFA.
He's an arrogant fucking prick who can go fuck himself.
Did you hear the speech he gave? That was so
I know.
It was so fucking awkward.
Shut
I
up.
was just like, dude, what? Like, ugh.
Has there not been an awkward president of FIFA?
No,
Sepp Blatter was no better.
Sepp Blatter was a douchebag too. The two of them can go fucking hold hands and take a long walk of a short pier.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right.
But despite all that.
But the problem is it's a very powerful, rich entity that has no government oversight.
Right. They are basically their own government.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of set their own standard.
Like the NCAA.
And that's why there was massive corruption. And 24 people were arrested. So there we go, gentlemen. All right. So we're up to kickoff November 20th. Okay. We've covered obviously the selection issue and the surrounding scandal there and the LGBTQ and the beer issue. And so here we are at kickoff, Ecuador taking on Qatar. And obviously we know how that went. But in terms of the tournament itself, it has been a wild one. Some major players in the field gone. In the group stage, gone. Germany, gone. Belgium, 2 in the world, gone. Denmark, gone. USA, to their credit, they didn't dominate their group. They didn't dominate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They squeak by. They get to the knockout stage. Coincidentally, the only CONCACAF team to make it. Mexico out. Costa Rica out. Canada out. All in the group stage. And then what is
and
USA?
Consequently, the only team not to concede a goal.
And what does USA do? The first fucking round of the knockout stage, man. It's like
they get more goals scored on them than they scored the whole tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah,
I mean, it was a complete switch. Like, I mean, not that Netherlands is a punk bitch, because they're not, right? Like, I mean,
no,
a lot of talent, a lot of young, good talent. But
in 2010, they faced off against Spain. They took Spain to 120 minutes in a penalty shootout in the final, which Spain ends up winning. But yeah, Netherlands is
here's the problem I had with the Netherlands game. It's like that first goal was clear. You're fucking letting them come down the wing. You're not pressing anybody in the box. You're letting them cross and get on the ball. I mean, the first two goals back were fucking like flipped mirrored versions of each other. Like, I mean, it's like, what the fuck? Like, that shit you have to adjust to.
and
I just think the United States team for however long has had no offensive identity. It doesn't know how to score. It doesn't know what it wants to do in the final third, and it shows every game.
Agreed.
And then ultimately, it's playing checkers when other sophisticated teams are playing chess.
So what I'm hearing is they need Shane Beamer to help with special teams.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, number one in the fucking country. I mean, don't fuck around. I mean,
No,
special teams beat both Tennessee and Clemson. Don't hate.
If only they had special teams in football,
right?
International
yeah,
football.
Grinch, I agree. I mean, watching the matches, it's like, and I don't think Pulisic is the answer, and I agree with Thor, and I don't know why they call him Captain America. What has he done to earn such a braggadocious title?
No doubt, from an American standpoint, what he's managed to do overseas at a club level, going to, he was at what was the German team? He was in the German league for a few years and then was bought on a massive contract by Chelsea in the English Premier League. And he has done very well there. But in terms of what he's done for American football, next to nothing. And while I get that they're making him the face of American football, he's not the guy that's going to save American football. He's just not. I don't think he's talented, no doubt, but I don't think they surround him with the talent that he's going to need to thrive. He's no Messi. I mean, he's like or dislike Messi, Ronaldo, people of that ilk. He's not them. And we don't build our team.
I think Tim Weah's way better of a striker, all-around striker than Pulisic is. And I was way more impressed with his movement and the way he was trying to be creative and create space and create opportunities.
Don't fucking lie. We all know you're a Dest homer. Okay, he's your guy. Loving that dude.
I mean, look. I want to like Dest because he's got Netherlands heritage. But I mean, he's not a good player, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's had a great tournament. What a great tournament!" I'm like, no, he hasn't. Why are we saying shit like this?
He's made some questionable mistakes.
I mean, I feel like. And I'm super naive. I mean, there've been coaches that could just talk circles around me, or even your casual fan that could. But I feel like there's like maybe 3 tiers, with maybe a fourth, which is probably where I'd put the United States. But your quality teams, it's either the system works and they're all bought in on how that system's going to function, or there's the teams that are built around super talented individuals. And I'll use Argentina as this example. Messi is free to float anywhere he wants on the field.
Right.
They don't need him in full defensive mode. He'll be on the left side, the right side. He flows to space, and then the magic happens kind of working off of him. And then you have teams that have both system and mega talent, like maybe France and Mbappe and like that kind of thing. My problem with the United States is it has neither the superstar to build around nor the system that works. It requires them all to be constantly bought in to try to make the system just hang on.
Right.
And it can, when you go into like full turtle shell mode, it can hold up at times. But for anybody who kind of saw the exploits like the Netherlands did,
which they clearly did. And oh my God, did they?
Yeah,
holy shit.
And then just nothing changed to account for it, because I don't think Berhalter had any answers.
He didn't. And there's so many questions behind, like, why wasn't Gio Reyna playing more? I mean,
which is just a weird side note to it all. I don't.
Josh Sargent getting hurt in that last match didn't help. I don't think Pulisic getting hurt in the final group match didn't help. Look, I'm not saying. I have very mixed emotions about how the U.S. Showed up and played. I mean, it's one of the youngest teams at like 24.7 or 24.8 average. So one of the youngest teams. I think there's a lot of talent, more talent than we've ever seen, top down, side to side. I love Adams. I think he's a wonderful midfielder. I think he's going to be there for years, and things are going to flow through him. I think we have, other than Zimmerman's, accosting um, during the
First match against
Wales. He's pretty solid. I mean, some of the players are a bit older. I look, all in all, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the future of U.S. Men's soccer team. I think we have a lot to be excited about, and our under 17 team just beat both France and England. I saw last week. So I mean, yeah, I know, but that means we got a pipeline. We finally got some athletes. Some real there's some real culture developing that has me excited.
But I've heard that for 30 fucking years.
Yeah, but look at the talent we're putting on the field, though. Finally,
I mean, I will say this as well.
You don't see it?
We've talked about this with college football. It's hard to be excellent year over year over year. And we saw a Germany
and Belgium
shockingly walk in a Belgium.
Shit, we saw Argentina lose to Saudi Arabia.
I mean, in Japan, was
Morocco.
Fun. Croatia, I think, is actually, consistently maybe better than that lead in
would give them credit for.
Giving them credit for,
especially because of how old they are.
Yeah,
and then I mean, you get a Senegal making it into the next or the round of 16. You get Morocco,
the Cinderella, clearly the Cinderella of the tournament.
And then you get the old guard.
Morocco led their group out of Croatia, Belgium, and Canada, which I thought was one of the more. I mean, if you'd had me put hard real money cash down, I would have said that Morocco finished last in that group, and they finished the top. Like, what the fuck is going on?
And sent Canada and Belgium home. Yeah. I think, Haas, to answer your question, you said, "Oh, don't you see the talent?" I'm not saying there's not talent there. My concern is, and I think I addressed this in the text, is I don't think Berhalter's the guy because neither his strategy or his tactics are working.
And I think that goes back to what Grinch was saying, right? Like, if you've got the talent and you have a shitty system, it doesn't fucking matter. Just like if you've got a great system and you don't have talent, it doesn't fucking
There's
matter.
only so much you can do. And you and I discussed this when I came up and visited you. There are a number of ways strategically to approach a game. Okay? You can run through the middle. You can use your wingers and pass to the middle. You can play 90% defense, which is what the Netherlands did against us in the knockout stage, and then you play the quick breakaway and you score. So you are perfectly fine giving the other team possession, and then you catch them on a breakaway when they're getting comfortable and you lull them in. Like, there are a number of approaches. And as Grinch said, I don't know what our approach is. No fucking idea. That first half against the Welsh in game 1, they came to play. And in the second half, it was an entirely different team. It's like I don't know what the fuck they were doing. And that's the problem they have. Yes, Argentina got beat by Saudi Arabia in game 1, but they didn't lose another game because they went, oh, fuck that. We learned from our mistake. And as Grinch mentioned, you tend to have, a lot of teams tend to have that traditional number 10 player who plays through the middle and they facilitate all of the passes to anybody that needs. But Messi is a whole different beast. They'll put him anywhere on the field. They give him carte blanche. They allow him not to be a traditional number 10 because he's fleet of foot. He can run you down. He can outrun you. He can out-dribble you. He can just outplay you. And then they allow him to feed the people he needs to when he needs to, or they trust him to just do it. We don't have that guy. And unfortunately, we don't have the coach, in my opinion, don't have the coach to make it work. And I don't know who that coach is. I don't. And we've discussed not having an American coach. I know Grinch is a huge fan of Bruce Arena, but I don't think he's the guy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's art and science, right? We talk about this a lot of you can't necessarily take one solution from another team and go, that's what we need to do. Because I think about like a Brazil that got rocked. And it was looking for discipline. Now, my understanding is this coach they currently have instilled that. He is a very disciplined coach with his approach to the team and what he drilled into them. And it seems to be working. I'm not as familiar with, kind of where England had to come from or the Netherlands. Like Argentina seems to be a little more like the team's gelled as opposed to like a Portugal who has this Ronaldo problem.
And it is a problem at this point.
What is he? I think
yeah,
that's
but hold
article,
on. But not really a problem when they win 6-1.
What, right? I mean,
Holy fuck.
and that's the thing. If that coach is if he's gonna make that gamble, he either wins the locker room or he doesn't.
I'm sorry, was Ronaldo on the field for that?
Right?
He scored one goal in that
he
6-1 match.
But he didn't.
But he wasn't a starter.
He was not a starter.
It was the first time in like 20 years. And
right.
Like many, like 50
they put up the bulk of their
matches.
points without him on the field.
Absolutely.
So, and again, you can make all kinds of arguments. As we said, Morocco was a shock. They were the Cinderella, or are currently the Cinderella of this tournament, as it's not over. But it was disheartening to see the U.S. after 8-year hiatus and not making it in 2018 get there, squeak by the group stage, and then get to the Netherlands, and it's just like, y'all have the same fucking game. It's like we talk about college football. Everybody's got the same fucking game footage. Figure it out. And I never understood why they kept trying to crash the middle with Pulisic. It's like, get out on the wings. Let some people run down the wings, pass it to the middle. You can't try to funnel everything through the middle. You don't have the playmakers to do it. And the Netherlands kept crashing the middle with their defenders, and then they catch us on a breakaway and score. And it's just like, okay, I get it. 45 minutes, fine. But the second 45 minutes, fucking learn. And they didn't learn.
Well, it is funny, another article I saw, it was like a sentence within the article. It was like, possession time, the most pointless stat in the sport. Because if you don't do anything with the damn ball, which is a lot of, like, it's so interesting because, again, you can find an exception to every rule, right? Because they say, I think Argentina had a 27 pass string before they scored a goal in one of their, group stage games. But that's what they're looking for, is they're looking to lull you to sleep. You get a little bored. You're like, they're just going to, oh shit, all of a sudden, as opposed to you can see the difference in some of these teams. And I'll use Uruguay because fucking that team, I almost pulled my hair out watching them with their 400 back passes that accomplished nothing.
Right.
Because you could tell they didn't know what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that's the way, I don't know, that's the way I always felt with the United States, is it's the constant, who's going to do something? But because the system isn't designed to go, we're going to be aggressive and do some over the top, some through balls, some diagonals, let's just take some risks. If you give up possession, who fucking cares?
Right.
But that wasn't their approach. It was so gun shy that they ended up walking into the Netherlands and just getting outclassed, frankly.
And agreed. And I tell you, the thing that disgusts me the most is we gave it our all. They way to go, boys. You gave it your all. And I'm like, no, you didn't.
I'm sorry, Grinch. They didn't overwhelm. They didn't underwhelm. What'd they do?
They whelmed.
They just whelmed.
And you know what? That's perfect, right? Because it's true.
Yeah, and I forget the name of who wrote that article. I should give them credit. I'm not going to, because that's not on the top of my head. But it was so well written of just.
It was very succinct about exactly who they were in that game, and what we got out of them in this tournament. And it's sad because, yes, you do want to root for them and you want them to be successful. Haas, you and I in 2014, we sat in the fucking pub here and we watched Tim Howard in goal against Belgium, and he just played fucking lights out. But there was no offense to be had. And as much of a wall as he was in goal, if your offense is not scoring, it's hard to win a fucking game.
Well, I mean, when you're giving the other team that much, those many opportunities in their final third, the law of averages says eventually something's going to hit the back of the net, right?
And we all make
because
that.
I think Matt Turner had an amazing tournament. I mean, I think he's a good goalie. I like him.
He's no. Oh fuck! Who was the goalkeeper? Was it Croatian?
No. I know you're talking about.
The fucking goalkeeper just played Poland's goalkeeper.
The Polish goalkeeper.
Fucking Szczesny. Szczesny stopped. I was just like, dude, give this guy credit, because he was stopping everything thrown his way, because his team was just doing fuck all.
He was stopping everything until France got momentum.
Well, that's true.
And then it was like, go fuck yourself.
And I mean, look, I and maybe there's not a difference. Maybe there is. I mean, I look at a Poland that ultimately lost 3-1 to France. Now, France is freaking good. And I kind of feel like, as I'm sitting here, I'm like, damn, Poland, you you represented. Whereas the United States, maybe I'm unfairly going, you freaking got your ass handed to you. It's embarrassing, and I don't know. I mean, maybe we're just hypercritical because it's our team, which is natural, right? You always criticize your own team more. I mean, look, they made it. Did they make it?
Yeah, but
here's
the difference. We don't have a Lewandowski like Poland has, right? Like, I mean, we don't have that world class player like a France, like a Mbappe. Like we don't have a Messi, or I don't want to say Ronaldo because I think has been.
He's Ronaldo,
but he's still Ronaldo, and you can't discredit that, right? No. Like we don't have a Memphis Depay, right? Like the Netherlands have. Like we don't have
a Neymar.
Yeah, a Neymar, like we just don't, and I think that goes back to Thor's point and to your point, Grinch, which is without that player and without a proper system and coach to implement the system, where are we going to be in 4 years, fellas?
Well, I don't think we're any better off than we are.
That's we need some players with one name.
One name players, yes,
is what we need.
Yeah, because in 4 years, obviously, we are the host nation. Well, us combined with Canada and Mexico. The three are hosting the next World Cup in 2026, but you obviously want to make a good showing on your own soil. And in 94, we got out of the group stage, and then in the knockout stage, we pulled Brazil in the first round in that round of 16, and we lost to Brazil. Now that's a tough pull, right? But you go, oh, Netherlands, they're aging. Maybe we can squeak this one out, get a goal here, goal there, maybe sit back.
They just looked so
didn't fucking happen.
Succinct and surgical than we did.
Yeah, and we looked inept, and it was just like,
man. I mean, you here's what's sad. I don't know about you guys, but like the first goal, I saw it coming. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, here they go, they're about to score. Oh, look at that, they fucking scored. And then the second goal, I was like, fellas, who's pressing? It's the same goddamn thing they just did on the first goal. No one's pressing. Why the fuck is no one pressing? Oh, look, no, second goal. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. How do you turn it around? I don't know. Is it the right coach? Is it a combination of the right strategy, the right tactics with the right players? And maybe, and I hate to use this connection, but, Tim Tebow was great at the college level as a hype man, and he could do what needed to be done. But when he went to the NFL, he wasn't. And coaches tried to build a scheme around his limitations. Maybe that's what the coach of U.S. soccer needs to do. It's like, okay, here's what I've got. What are my limitations? I need to build a scheme around that to make them competitive. You can't compete with the Spains, the Argentinas, the Brazils, the Germanys, the Englands, and the Frances of the world. Hell, you can't even compete with fucking Moroccans. But they're clearly doing something right, and you're not. And I don't understand where the disconnect occurs, because it's like you all are watching the same thing. And I guess for me, it's like, why is Georgia so much more dominant than the next team? Because everybody's got the same 11 players on the field, not the same players, but they've got the same positional players. They practice. It's like
we know why. We know why. It's the same thing, just on a different scale. The rest of the world gives more shit about soccer.
That's true.
So they get the best athletes. Our best athletes are not playing soccer.
No. And on that note, in case you hadn't heard, Cristiano Ronaldo was offered $211 million to go play in Saudi Arabia. And ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. That's $211 million a year to go play in Saudi Arabia. Think he's going to take that, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think he's going to go play
after getting
Miami, AC Miami.
Yeah. After getting dressed down by his head coach. And as I think I saw an article that said the most talented player that nobody wants.
Yeah. Well, again, my personal love, my club team, Manchester United, just dumped his ass because of a press conference where he bashed the manager of the team and didn't like the tactics, and mainly because he wasn't getting played the way he wanted to. And so they basically ended his contract. Now he can't actually go play for Saudi Arabia until the January transfer window ends, because technically he's still under contract for Man United, so he can't go anywhere else. But yeah, they offered him $211 million. They're in another athlete in the world, anywhere, any sport, getting paid $211 million a year to play their sport. To me, that's fucking insane. Nobody deserves that. I don't give a fuck who you are.
Well, I mean, we talked about it. Live golf, I
they got the money.
The case of A&M, they weren't able to buy a championship. I don't know what they're going to buy with getting a Ronaldo there, and if it changes the whole football landscape. I don't think it will.
That's the problem when you have more money than sense.
Well, and again, I think that and it's interesting. It's an interesting dichotomy. The two princes of international football right now, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, have been for the last few decades. One is potentially for $211 million a year going to Saudi Arabia, and the other one is apparently going to come play for David Beckham at Inter Miami for a lot less. So it's an interesting way for both of them to kind of end their careers. One making a couple million, one making 211 million. Look, and Clint Dempsey said it. If you can go make that money, go do it. I would.
Yeah,
sure,
I mean,
why not?
We've talked about this. I mean, it's generational money.
He's 37. He can't keep pace. I don't give a fuck who you are.
You talk. In our sports world, I mean, you got a LeBron that's like a valuation of almost $1 billion because of everything else he's doing with his money, right. And you set for life and you build on that wealth for generations, and next thing you know, you're the owner of some corporation or what, I don't know.
Right. Or you buy some soccer team somewhere. I mean, yeah, that's fucking insane. But all the best to him if he makes that work. I don't know that I'd want to go live in Saudi Arabia, but hey, $211 million. That's a hell of a paycheck.
Well, just so we're clear, Ronaldo is currently worth $500 million. So, a couple of years.
He'll be over $1 billion.
He'll be over $1 billion. Yeah.
Yeah, because
maybe you can replace that statue.
you hear numbers like that when you say 200 million. You're thinking, it's a 5-year, 10-year contract, right? Because that's what we hear here in America. Oh, baseball player getting paid $350 million, but it's for 10 years. That's a year, $211 million. I mean, that's ridiculous.
And I'm sure Ronaldo's pissed because he's estimated to be worth $490 million, whereas Messi's estimated to be worth $620 million. So
they're all guilty of tax evasion.
Oh, fuck, they are. They are. That's why they're always in court every other freaking month.
That's how they landed Messi at Inter Milan, because there's no state tax here.
Yep.
Shakira, no.
It has been so far an entertaining World Cup. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. USA notwithstanding, I mean, it was fun to watch, but it was disappointing the way they kind of checked out of it. But I'm hoping that it ends with a bang, and that maybe someone new. And hey, look, if Morocco goes on and wins, we
all got to hang out and watch matches together.
Right,
that was my favorite part. Man.
If Morocco goes on and wins, I'm okay with that.
I think that'd be walk great. Down the street to some people in the United States and be like, "Put out this map where Morocco is." Oh,
that's right. Look, I was stoked. I would love to see Japan. I would have loved to have seen South Korea.
Me too. Yep.
But unfortunately, that was just not.
How can you not cheer for Japan, man?
Dude,
there's
and
so much about heart.
There's heart, and they're just such awesome people. Did you see where
I know
the
they're
coach
cleaning
went
up
out
the
and bowed to the fans?
stadiums?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how can you not love these people?
I know. I agree.
I mean, granted, our a couple generations ago, we weren't big fans of them, in this country.
Well, that's our own short-sightedness, shortcomings.
Well, I mean, being is what today is, December 7th. I mean, it's only appropriate that we.
Amen. Look at that.
But I get your point. Now, Japan, yes, I also was rooting for them. Sadly, they didn't. And quite frankly, they were the better side. Croatia was not the better side in that match. They just happened to take advantage of the freaking penalty kicks.
And you take advantage of what's in front of you. That's why Georgia's undefeated. You take advantage of what's in front of you.
Word.
On that note, gentlemen, I appreciated the World Cup. Again, I love this sport. I always have. It is something that I am tied to, and I have been since I was a kid. And I follow it every 4 years. Looking forward to 2026 when it's here in the United States.
Well, we all played it. We've all kind of like watched it together over the years. Like what was that in '94 when you, me, and our dads watched it together? You and I
we did. And then you and I watched '98 in my apartment. We watched that one. 2014, you came and stayed at my house, and we watched. So yes, and then obviously this year, we got a chance to watch some matches. So it's been a fun run. I'm looking forward to see how all this falls out. But
because hopefully 4 years from now we're all going to matches
in a stadium somewhere.
Yes. That is what
exactly. I'm good with that. Thank you, gentlemen, for this. I appreciate it. It has been a long time coming. Obviously, we've not been able to connect for a little bit, but it was good to get back into the studio and be able to chit chat with you all. I'm sorry Mac is not here. I would have loved to, have him talk about indentured slavitude and how that plays out. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to check out everything that we do here and talk about here. If you can go to our website at aspiritedebate.com, you can check out all of our episodes in the vault. There's like 100 now. I don't know how many, a lot, 160-ish. Lots of minutes to listen to. So go and check it out. Coincidentally, the 20, it's end of November, 2 days back to back. Most downloads we've had in 2 days. We had 97 one day and 101 the next day. Don't know where that came from, but people clearly were listening to something. But yeah, nearly 200 downloads in 2 days. That's our biggest 2-day download. So I was like,
Nice.
holy shit.
Cool.
So we're still trending upwards.
Trending up. Absolutely.
Nice.
We're at the tippity top, but we're only
You're
halfway,
only halfway
there.
That's right. But yeah, check out all of our episodes there in the vault on aspiritedebate.com. All of the drinks that we try here are Cranberry Fizz, Haas's Angel's Envy on the rocks, which he's probably done, I don't know, 10 times, 12 times, something like
If
that.
it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Amen. Or you can drop us a line at the Four Horsemen at aspiritedebate.com. Hit us up, a drink you'd like us to try, a topic you'd like us to debate. If you give us a good topic, maybe we'll get you on the show and we will let you debate it with us. Would love to do that. Love having guests. Coincidentally, we have a guest coming up. Looking forward to that one. It's been a minute. Definitely want to have his voice back on the show. So as always, from the Four Horsemen here at the Spirited Debate Studios, we love everybody. Love you guys. Thank you for doing this. We'll do this again next week. So thank you very much. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the host or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.